Lin Hao was a rising star with a bright future compared to Luo Chen, who hadn't had a single assignment in 3 years and had long been forgotten by everyone. Anyone would know who the right choice would be. I should have known, should have known. Zhou Wenbin was right, there's nobody, in the entire worldwide, who wants me, nobody. My whole life, was over long ago. Seeing that Yi Bai was agreeable, Zhou Wenbin discreetly revealed a despicable expression. He immediately settled for just a small-time artiste. This Yi Bai is so inexperienced. Zhou Wenbin spoke loftily, acting like he was very charitable. Since Manager Yi has agreed to it, then it's set. I'll get someone to bring Lin Hao's engagement contract over for you to sign. Hold it. Yi Wanwan interrupted Zhou Wenbin. Zhou Wenbin raised his brows and seemed a bit displeased. What? Do you have any other requests? Yi Wanwan smirked and glanced at Zhou Wenbin. A hint of disdain and contempt flashed across his eyes as he spoke. We can have a switch, but Director Zhou, isn't Lin Hao a little subpar? If you want a switch, then I'll exchange him for Gong Su. Zhou Wenbin was stunned for a moment before he absorbed what Yi Bai just demanded. His face changed and he burst into a rage. Yi Bai. You're too arrogant. You really think I can't do anything to you? Chairman Chu, did you hear what he just said? This chump is obviously trying to stir up trouble. He actually compared this person that nobody has ever heard of to the most popular artiste under me. It's simply ridiculous. Not to mention Zhou Wenbin, but even Luo Chen himself was stunned when he heard what Yi Bai said. His clear and vacant eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Wanwan's expression remained unchanged as she sneered, I'm stirring up trouble. Just who's the one stirring up trouble? Chairman Chu, you're the one who ordered that everyone in Dazzling had to cooperate with me. With that said, the indifference in Yi Wanwan's eyes disappeared instantly. Her cold gaze shot towards Zhou Wenbin as she snapped, but Director Zhou, what about you? Are you not part of Dazzling Media, someone under Chairman Chu? Or do you think that all of Dazzling belongs to you and you're allowed to ignore Chairman Chu's decisions? You don't even care about what Chairman Chu says and keep getting in the way. Yi Wanwan obviously didn't mention how Zhou Wenbin was violating Luo Chen because she knew it'd be no use even if she did. One was the golden manager while the other was an artiste past his prime. It was obvious which side Chu Hongguang would stand with. It was very common for such things to happen in the entertainment industry. If things went wrong, Zhou Wenbin might even accuse Luo Chen of seducing him instead. So, what is Chu Hongguang most concerned about? His power and status. With Zhou Wenbin's position, it was like he was a ruler of a vassal state far away from the imperial capital, guarding his throne and arrogantly growing his army. But in the entertainment industry, it was frowned upon for a manager to have too much power. Many established entertainment companies collapsed overnight because a manager poached too many artistes when they left the company. Hearing Yi Bai's interrogation, Zhou Wenbin gradually panicked as he rebuked coldly, Yi Bai. Don't try to drive a wedge between us now. When did I say anything like that? One must understand that Chu Hongguang hated having someone challenging his authority and escaping his control. As expected, Chu Hongguang's face started to change. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Even though Chu Hongguang knew Yi Bai was just trying to drive a wedge between him and Zhou Wenbin, he still took his words seriously. Zhou Wenbin had certainly been too disagreeable recently. He undermined him as the chairman umpteen times and he even heard that Zhou Wenbin had been in private contact with people from the Yi group. With that thought, Chu Hongguang finally said, Wenbin, hand over the contract. I've already made up my mind on this matter. But, Chairman Chu. Chu Hongguang's face darkened. What? Can't I even transfer an artiste now? If you're not agreeable to this, then hand Gong Su over. For Chairman Chu to say something like that, he must be really agitated. Of course you can, Chairman Chu, that's not what I meant. I'll do it right away. To prevent agitating Chu Hongguang any further, Zhou Wenbin could only take a step back. Chu Hongguang humphed and hung up the video call. It seems like Yi Bai's right. If dazzling was run by Zhou Wenbin alone, nothing good will come of it. If Zhou Wenbin developed any malicious intentions, all of dazzling would be cleared out. But this Yi Bai is too young and reckless. He lets his emotions affect his decisions, stubbornly asking for that Luo Qin guy in a fit. Can Yi Bai really take Zhou Wenbin on? After he ended the video call, Zhou Wenbin made a very angry call to get his assistant and lawyer to come and deal with the handover. While he was signing the papers, he stared at Yi Bai like he wanted to swallow him alive. Damn it, I was so close to succeeding yet I failed once again. After the transfer of Luo Chen to her was done, Yi Wanwan waved the contract, curled her lips and stood up. Appreciate it, Director Zhou. Everything happened so abruptly that Luo Chen still hadn't regained his senses when he saw his own name under the new management contract. It was only after realizing that Yi Wanwan had already stood up and was ready to leave that he woke up and quickly followed behind. Just as he stepped out, Zhou Wenbin's gloomy voice came from behind, Luo Chen, you better think this through carefully. Do you really want to follow this immature and inexperienced manager with a complete lack of network and resources? Luo Chen paused only for a second before continuing to walk in Yi Bai's direction. A crash resounded from the office. It was the aftermath of Zhou Wenbin kicking the coffee table. TSK, there are so many fresh and obedient artistes in the company, he could have had any one of them. This Luo Chen was almost 21 years old, he was no longer the same as before. Zhou Wenbin only wanted him because he couldn't have him, but turned out this new guy doesn't know what's good for him. Good. Very good. I want to see what happens when Luo Chen follows Yi Bai. In the office at the second story, after all, she was someone Chu Hongguang sent over personally, so she had to appear to have some status. Although Yi Wanwan's office wasn't as spacious or grand as Zhou Wenbin's, it wasn't bad. It was minimalist and had great lighting. Make yourself comfortable, Yi Wanwan took out the first aid kit from one of the drawers. Luo Chen lowered his head and disinfected his wounds silently. Then he placed a bandage over it. Yi Wanwan pulled out a chair and sat in front of the desk, then sized up the man before her without any expression on her face. She called him a man, but she thought he was more like a teenager. The present Luo Chen and that teenager she saw 3 years ago were totally identical. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. But even if his appearance remained the same, his temperament might have changed. The Luo Chen 3 years ago was like a white sheet of paper, clean and flawless, full of vigor and talent. His unique traits were simply like a breath of fresh air in the materialistic entertainment industry. But at the same time, being so pure gave people the desire to trample on him. Luo Chen still had that delicate and perfect face today, but it was white as snow. He was still a teenager, yet there was a trace of desolation in his eyes like an old man without a flicker of light in him. Initially, Yi Wanwan couldn't figure out why there was no news of Luo Chen at all when all the other main leads from Terrifying Dragon became so popular, even the supporting actors were doing well. Now she knew why. Luo Chen was 18 at that time and he recently entered university, carrying a dream within him and just successfully acted in the first movie of his life. It was just the beginning of his life. He'd worked so hard for the past 18 years and finally started a career he was passionate about. He was finally able to earn money and let his mother live a good life. But all these dreams were crushed by Zhou Wenbin. He didn't have any power nor status, his words didn't hold any weight, so one bad word from Zhou Wenbin could drive him to his death. He witnessed how those artistes who debuted at the same time as him, including those who were much more inferior to him, slowly gained popularity and left him in the dust. He watched his mother become older and weaker, yet he was a total failure and couldn't see any hope in his future. Since Luo Chen was too unpopular in her past life, the only memory of him Yi Wanwan had was his role in Terrifying Dragon, so she didn't even know what happened to him in the end. It probably wasn't a good ending since he never became popular, meaning that he didn't give in to Zhou Wenbin. On the sofa, Luo Chen's body looked very frail. His black hair, however, looked quite soft, a big contrast from his pale and sickly skin. Yi Wanwan saw how he hung his head and dressed his wound in silence. She saw how he looked so obedient and her heart softened. She couldn't help it. After all, she was actually a 27-year-old in her heart, and seeing this kind of innocent and gentle little sheep made it hard to control the overflowing maternal love in her. Luo Chen noticed her gaze upon him as he lifted his head and looked at the person behind the desk. That pair of clear eyes was filled with alertness and vigilance. After being manipulated for 3 whole years, it whittled away all his innocence and pureness. He could no longer trust anyone, even if this person saved him from Zhou Wenbin's hands. Who knows? Maybe he's another Zhou Wenbin. With that thought, Luo Chen's nerves tensed up instantly. At this moment, Yi Wanwan also returned to her senses and was ready to talk business. She flipped open a black leather notebook and asked directly, "What shows or assignments have you taken up in the past 3 years?" Luo Chen's face was dark as he replied with a hoarse voice, "Nothing, no shows and no assignments." This reply was exactly as she expected. "Yi Wanwan, what about private assignments?" Luo Chen shook his head, "No, the company doesn't allow those." Yi Wanwan kept asking, "Are you seeing anyone? Do you have a partner? Including your exes?" Luo Chen was stunned for a brief moment and his body tensed up because of this personal question. He pursed his lips and replied, "No. I didn't have any in the past either." Yi Wanwan was somewhat surprised as she tapped the pen in her hand. Although Luo Chen was still quite young, he was 21 and was no longer a kid. Also, with looks like his, had he actually not dated before? Must he be so pure? Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Any sexual partners? Fuck buddies? One-night stands? Yi Wanwan continued probing with a serious expression. It was best if he didn't have any, but if he did, she had to make sure to deal with his dirty past first. Since Yi Wanwan was so straightforward, Luo Chen's back stiffened even more as he sat up as straight as a ruler. No. The seriousness on Yi Wanwan's face then dissipated slightly. Very good. After that, she continued asking indifferently, "Who's handling your Weibo account now? Is it under your own control?" "Bin Jiyi was in charge of it," Luo Chen replied. "No wonder his Weibo's been so pathetic the past 3 years. There's no activity at all." Yi Wanwan frowned then said, "Alright, I'll take over from here. Check all your social media accounts once when you get home and delete all the inappropriate content." "I'll be checking." Luo Chen complied with her orders subconsciously. "Alright." "Oh yes, did the company give you basic pay?" Yi Wanwan asked. Luo Chen replied bitterly, "They haven't paid me for almost half a year." "Then what have you been doing all this time?" Yi Wanwan asked. Luo Chen looked a little ashamed. "I've been doing odd jobs." He couldn't do anything related to the entertainment industry and couldn't take on any private assignments, otherwise, he'd be sued by the company, so he had no choice but to take on odd jobs. Yi Wanwan's expression turned cold. Contract artistes did usually get a basic salary, but Zhou Wenbin didn't arrange any assignments or jobs for him, kept clinging on to his contract, refused to let him go and even cut his basic pay. He was obviously trying to drive him to his death. Even with that pathetic basic pay, other artistes might be able to survive just by taking on one assignment or taking a few photographs for a magazine, but to Luo Chen, that was the only income he got from the company. It wasn't hard to imagine what kind of hardships he had to endure these past 3 years. He was talented and clever and was meant to display his talents in showbiz, yet he was forced to do odd jobs at the lowest level to earn his keep. Luo Chen probably intended to endure another 2 years then sign with another company. His 5 precious years would be down the drain just like that, and even if his contract ended, judging by Zhou Wenbin's treacherous ways, he'd never give him a chance to make it big. Nobody would want a troublesome artiste past their prime. Previously, in Zhou Wenbin's office, she overheard that Luo Chen was unable to even pay for his mother's medical bills. Yi Wanwan thought about it for a while, then said, "I'll get someone to transfer the salary the company owed you all at once. You may use it for emergencies first." Yi Wanwan gave a call to the finance department immediately. Chu Hongguang had just thrown a fit, and Zhou Wenbin wouldn't dare to make things difficult for her over such matters, so she was able to make these small decisions herself. As expected, the finance department whined a little and made excuses like the company wanted to increase their income and economize on expenditures, but in the end, they agreed to give him his salary. "It's done. Just go get it directly from the finance department later." Seeing that Yi Bai made this call on the spot and got 6 months' worth of salary back for him, Luo Chen's eyes shifted slightly and he replied with a dry and hoarse voice, "Thank you." Although half a year of basic pay only added up to about 10,000 yuan, it was enough to get him out of his desperate situation. However, in the future, he had no idea what would happen. This man really wants to work with me. But why must it be me? Why didn't he agree when Zhou Wenbin wanted to switch me with Lin Hao? He had no idea what redeeming qualities he had that someone would be willing to spend a great amount of energy on him and even start a feud with Zhou Wenbin. When he first debuted 3 years ago, he was indeed quite popular and even had a chance to make it big, but during the next 3 years, since teen idols were all the rage, all the companies frantically churned out teen idols and groomed fresh meat constantly. There was only a handful who could become famous and the competition was extremely intense. There were numerous newcomers and interns who had the same standing as him in their respective companies. Furthermore, each of them had good looks and were between the ages of 16 to 20 while he already missed his prime period and age, so he was in a very awkward situation. He knew all this very well. Yi Wanwan looked at Luo Chen, who was deep in thought. Her face became more stern as she said, "And one last question, your sexual orientation." Suddenly hearing this question, the color that had just reappeared on Luo Chen's face faded instantly and his body was as stiff as a board. Yi Wanwan noticed Luo Chen's reaction and really couldn't bear to keep asking, but she didn't have a choice. These were important questions and she had to be clear about the answers before working with him. Especially the question about his sexual orientation. Although society was currently quite open-minded and more accepting of homosexuals that even the fujoshi market was expanding, the mainstream media wasn't so accepting on this and it was definitely a taboo in the entertainment industry. Plus, if senior management found out an artist was homosexual, it would be the end of that artist's career. Yi Wanwan strengthened her resolve and asked, "Is this question very hard to answer? Do you like men, women, or are you fine with both?" It was obvious that Luo Chen was repulsed by this question. He pursed his lips and finally mumbled out a word after a very long time, "Women." Yi Wanwan observed him closely. Luo Chen's answer wasn't fake, and his disgust towards men was very clear, but he didn't seem to have a liking for women when he answered. As long as he doesn't have those tendencies, it's all good. Yi Wanwan looked at the little lamb sitting in front of her dying from fear and her tone became gentler. "So sorry for asking all these questions. There might have been some questions that made you uncomfortable, but now I'm your manager and I have to have a clear understanding of everything about you. From today onwards, every matter of yours, no matter how big or small, will be my responsibility. It's not just limited to your job. It includes shows you receive, your assignments, your style of dress, your diet, lodging and transportation, your usual social activities, the friends you hang out with, your dating partner, whatever you say and however you act. You must comply with all my instructions. You must inform me immediately if anything happens, including anything regarding the questions you just answered, and you're not allowed to hide anything from me. Do you have any problem with what I just said? You may bring them up now." Compared to Zhou Wenbin's attempt to titillate him with his flirting and coercion, this new manager was very strict, but this kind of attitude strangely helped him feel more at ease. He nodded his head lightly and replied obediently, "I will cooperate." Yi Wanwan was satisfied and didn't waste any more time. She continued discussing some other details with him. When she was sure there was nothing she overlooked, Yi Wanwan finally stopped. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Add me to your contacts, sleep earlier tonight and come down to the company's film studio tomorrow at 9 a.m. If you have no problems, you may go back now. Luo Chen saved her number and added her on WeChat, then left the office feeling a bit perplexed. This man really wants me. Why was he so confident to put all his bargaining chips on me? I haven't acted for 3 entire years. Can I really do it? More than being afraid of this man, what he feared most was that he couldn't do it. Yi Wanwan was familiarizing herself with her new job and was busy completing all the handover procedures. When she was done, the sky was already dark. Seeing it was getting so late, Yi Wanwan stopped to stretch, put the files away and prepared to go home. Although there were too many things to do and learn, she thoroughly enjoyed the sense of fulfillment she got from her job. She felt alive. After Yi Wanwan left the office, she started walking on the sidewalk when all of a sudden, someone honked at her from behind. A silvery gray Porsche slowly drove up to her as she walked. The car window was rolled down and a dashing face appeared on the driver's side. Yi Bai. The man in the car called out to her. Yi Wanwan was surprised and stopped in her tracks. Han Xianyu. Get in. Yi Wanwan knew it was inconvenient for him to stop on the road for long, so she quickly got into the passenger seat. Were you passing by? The corners of Han Xianyu's eyes revealed a warm smile. I especially waited for you. Did Zhou Wenbin give you a hard time? It's only your first day, why did you have to work overtime? Yi Wanwan curled her lips and said arrogantly, he wishes he gave me a hard time. In other words, Zhou Wenbin didn't get what he wished for. I knew you wouldn't be bullied. Han Xianyu grinned in relief. Don't you have to work? Yi Wanwan glanced at Han Xianyu, concerned. The girl's case had already been settled, so he should be quite busy now. Just the number of reporters who wanted to interview him numbered in the hundreds and would be able to form a line around Imperial City. But other than posting a message of appreciation on Weibo to his supporters, he hadn't accepted a single interview or appeared in public, causing all his fans to be worried sick, afraid that he became discouraged by this damning incident. They were also worried he'd leave the entertainment industry altogether. Since Han Xianyu's fate had changed, Yi Wanwan was unable to foresee what would happen to him in the future. The worried gaze from Yi Wanwan warmed Han Xianyu's heart. I took a few days off to rest, that's all. Oh right, my friend's throwing a party tonight, would you like to go with me? There'll be many people from the industry there, I can introduce some of them to you. The incident with the girl had mentally and physically exhausted him. Even if the case was settled, it still affected him to the point that he didn't even have the energy to do much these days. His manager was worried that something would happen to him, so he forced him to leave the house and to deny the rumors about him leaving the industry at the same time. They drove slowly. Soon, they arrived at Dazzling Media. Yi Wanwan thought about his invitation. She really needed to network and knew Han Xianyu was also trying to help her, so she replied gratefully, sure, I don't have anything planned tonight. Thanks. Han Xianyu initially felt dispirited, but after Yi Wanwan agreed, his mood lifted somewhat. After they arrived at the party, Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded. The party was held at an outdoor swimming pool. There were hot girls in bikinis and fresh meat in swimming trunks everywhere, laughing and having fun in the pool. Why didn't you tell me it was a pool party? What's wrong? Han Xianyu was confused. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows, nothing. Thankfully, not everyone was in their bathing suits, there were a few youngsters by the side who were chatting in their formal attire. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Oh God. Quick, look. Is that Han Xianyu at the entrance? He hasn't shown his face since that incident, I can't believe he actually came today. I even heard he wanted to leave the industry and live a secluded life overseas. Gave me such a scare. How could that be? He profited from that disaster and is currently the most popular superstar, fanning the flames of his success. After what happened, his popularity surpassed Ling Xiaozhe and Gong Su. This incident about Han Xianyu shocked everyone in the industry. Everybody had followed the news, so Han Xianyu's sudden appearance today attracted a lot of attention. Before, everyone in the industry thought Han Xianyu was doomed for sure. After all, they also heard Worldwide was ready to give up. Who would have guessed the situation would suddenly take such a drastic turn? Not only did Han Xianyu not fall from his pedestal, but his status became even more stable, his popularity and prestige reached its peak, demonstrating a positive pattern in the industry. The degree of hatred against you previously would predict how popular you'd become later. In the entertainment industry, everyone would trample on you when you're at your lowest and lift you high up when you're at your highest. When Han Xianyu was in trouble, everyone steered far away from him, but now that he made a comeback, everyone was trying to worm their way to becoming friends with him. At the same time, the new face next to Han Xianyu attracted a lot of attention as well. Wait. Who's that person next to Han Xianyu? He's handsome. Not sure, I've never seen him before. Maybe he's a newcomer from Worldwide? Out of curiosity, someone actually went up to ask, Xianyu, this is my friend, Yi Bai. When did Worldwide take on such a good-looking newcomer? Why wasn't I aware of it? He's a manager, Han Xianyu replied. Yi Wanwan brought out the business cards she just received that day. Hello, this is my card. Manager? The guy was surprised and looked at this young man before him whose every movement was so attractive. Although there were some managers who had looks comparable to the celebrities, this young man's dashing appearance was really uncommon. Why is Han Xianyu suddenly so close to this new manager? Is he planning to change managers? Yi Wanwan didn't have any hopes for making any major moves that night. She simply wanted to follow Han Xianyu around so people would become familiar with her, and at the same time, she'd try to remember everyone she met. In a field such as the entertainment industry, you never know when you could use someone's help. After Han Xianyu brought Yi Wanwan to meet a few of his friends, they found a corner and started chatting. A waiter carried a tray of drinks over and Han Xianyu took a glass. When the waiter approached Yi Wanwan, he told the waiter, he doesn't drink. Please get him a White Russian. Yi Wanwan raised her brows in surprise. She didn't expect that Han Xianyu would be so sweet to remember her habits after just one time. But White Russian. This cocktail only has a little vodka, it's mostly just milk. Even though it's very easy to drink, isn't it more suitable for girls? In her previous life, she wasn't so obedient and often went against Si Yihan's wishes. Drinking, till she was dead drunk, was nothing out of the ordinary, so she knew quite a bit about alcohol. It's okay, I'll drink this. Yi Wanwan said, then took a glass of whiskey from the tray. Han Xianyu was confused. I thought your girlfriend doesn't allow you to drink. Yi Wanwan curled her lips, but that was because my girlfriend was sitting right next to me at the time, so I didn't dare. All right? Things are different now. Before coming to this party, she found out from Su Yi that Si Yihan received a call last night and left on an overseas business trip. He definitely wouldn't be back by today, so obviously, she was feeling gutsy. Of course, most importantly, she had to preserve a man's dignity. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. How could a big man like me drink such a sissy cocktail? It's totally inconsistent with my look. She won't be around these 2 days. Yi Wanwan acted like she just managed to catch a break, evoking the image of a downtrodden boyfriend who was finally let loose. She played this role very well. As a man himself, Han Xianyu found Yi Wanwan's behavior very normal, so he laughed and said, "Oh right, I heard you chose to take on Luo Chen." Yi Wanwan nodded. Yup. Why him? Yi Wanwan couldn't really tell him that she knew the future, so she simply replied, he's pleasing to the eyes, I guess. Han Xianyu chuckled. You might as well say he's handsome. Yi Wanwan laughed as well and shrugged. Isn't that the truth? He's even better looking in person. Truly the nation's first love. Also, Luo Chen just had a run of bad luck lately, his looks and skills were pretty good. But it's not hard to find someone who looks good, right? Luo Chen's quite talented but too bad, his luck's not too great, and he's in quite an awkward situation right now. A hint of disgust flashed in Han Xianyu's eyes. The things Zhou Wenbin did in private might not have been known to the outside world, but it didn't mean nobody knew about it. He could roughly guess why Luo Chen was buried in the snow, so to speak. Although he wasn't sure what Yi Bai's plan was, he believed Yi Bai had his reasons for choosing Luo Chen. Anyway, just let me know if you need help, Han Xianyu offered. Yi Wanwan took a sip of her drink. Don't worry, I won't stand on ceremony with you. Yi Wanwan's attitude made Han Xianyu feel at ease. He turned towards the pool and asked, not going for a swim. Yi Wanwan held her glass and supported her head in her hand, too lazy to change. You go ahead. Not swimming at a pool party. I'll watch you swim. Han Xianyu looked at how lazy she was and could only shake his head helplessly. He went ahead without her. Shortly after, Han Xianyu changed out of his clothes and came out with only blue and black skin-tight swimming trunks. Yi Wanwan sized up the naked body before her with pure appreciation. Han Xianyu's skin was a healthy, light honey shade and he maintained his body well. One look and she knew he had been working out for a long time to obtain that figure. Perfect six-pack, an Apollo's belt that could cause any girl to be lost in wild and fanciful thoughts, a wide waist and a narrow butt, and 2 long and straight legs. Among all the fresh meat at the party, there were many white-boiled chickens, so Han Xianyu's figure wasn't half bad. Some young female stars started screaming when he came out. Ah ah ah. Han Xianyu has such an amazing figure. Which moron said Han Xianyu used a body double in nude scenes? Does he even need a double with a body like that? Those abs. I really want to touch them. And those big long legs. Han Xianyu was pretty confident about his own figure. He stood there openly for Yi Wanwan to admire him, then tossed his phone to her. I'm going down for a swim. Hold on to my phone. He's letting me hold on to something so private. It seems he doesn't have his guard up around me at all. After Han Xianyu went to the pool, there were shrieks of excitement everywhere. Maybe it was the alcohol, but when Yi Wanwan heard the shrieks around her, another body inexplicably surfaced in her mind. And it was naked. Under the glow from the morning sun, she saw the man's naked back. Unlike Han Xianyu's figure that had undergone a strict fitness regimen, every contour of that man's body had an explosive force and unruliness. It was as perfect as a work of art, especially since she noticed some remnants of lust for him still lingering in herself. But the man's eyes were as cold as ice that would never melt. Damn, am I really drunk? There were so many good-looking people here, yet she was fantasizing about Si Yihan's naked body, and that time he forced himself onto her like he wanted to devour her entire being. Stop, stop, stop. Stop. Yi Wanwan shook her head hard to get rid of those provocative images in her head. On the other side, Han Xianyu returned after swimming a few laps and walked towards her with droplets of water dripping from his body. Yi Wanwan passed him the towel that was on the seat next to her. Thanks, Han Xianyu took the white towel and quickly wiped his body. Then he got the waiter to get him a glass of red wine. Han Xianyu had just sat down when a woman in a red dress with big curls strode towards the both of them like an enchanting witch in her high heels. The woman stroked Han Xianyu's abs without a word, easily accomplishing something all the girls at the party wanted to do but couldn't. Aya, little angel Xianyu, your bod's getting better. Han Xianyu, who had just been taken advantage of, looked speechless when he saw this woman. Xanjie. Yi Wanwan was already a little tipsy at this point, so when she saw a delightful beauty walking towards her, her eyes lit up. It was the top actress, Xiaoku Xian. Wrong, the current Xiaoku Xian hadn't received the Best Actress award yet, but the award ceremony was around the corner. Chiao Ko-exayan was a classic example of someone who relied on her looks to succeed in the entertainment industry. She was one of those pretty and flirtatious sorts of domineering women and had always been very popular. Unfortunately, because of her image, she didn't even have a decent award under her belt and she was already in her 30s. Thus, she was criticized by many and was always insulted by female stars. Yi Wanwan remembered this was the year she received the Golden Orchid Award for Best Actress. In her past life, she was quite fond of Chiao Ko-exayan. Although she was flirtatious and had numerous boyfriends before, she was one of the few celebrities who were real. Fine, she was just envious of the 3,000 harems of Chiao Ko-exayan. All her boyfriends were super handsome hunks and they were all younger than her with good looks and bodies. Previously, there was a fan who begged her to discuss tips on how to get men, saying the discussion would definitely play on the VIP channels for the entire year. At the moment, Chiao Ko-exayan sized up the young man next to Han Xianyu wantonly and wasn't trying in the slightest to mask her interest. "Xianyu, is this your friend? Why haven't I seen him before? Why haven't you introduced such a handsome little DD to me before?" Han Xianyu lifted his head to look at her then replied bluntly, "This is my friend, Yi Bai, but he already has a girlfriend." When her motives exposed on the spot, Chiao Ko-exayan giggled but didn't appear too abashed. She glanced at him coquettishly. "So what if he has a girlfriend?" Jia is not interested in being his girlfriend." Han Xianyu rubbed his wet head with the towel, glanced at her then said calmly, "That's right, you only want to bed him." Chiao Ko-exayan pouted and protested playfully, "You're so mean." Han Xianyu replied, "Exayan Jia, he's not that sort of person. Don't get any ideas." Right after Han Xianyu said that, the young man next to him said, How am I not that sort of person? I most definitely am." Han Xianyu, Yi Wanwan looked at Chiao Ko-exayan and a smile spread across her face. "Does Jia like me?" Chiao Ko-exayan's heart was instantly stirred by that pair of sparkling eyes. She had seen many hunks before, and many of them were fresh and young, but this particular boy was too attractive. The boys she dated before were top-notch hunks, but after a while, there wasn't much excitement to them. It was like they were all clones from a production line. But this Yi Bai, he sat there alone and although he was physically at a noisy party, he seemed deep in thoughts like he was lost in a bamboo forest, contented and unaffected. He drank by himself and also, he had a sense of desolation that extended beyond his age. She was instantly attracted to him from afar and she wasn't the only one at this party who felt this way. Han Xianyu's head was filled with black lines as he looked at Yi Bai whose personality had suddenly changed completely. He then coughed lightly and said, "Sorry, he's drunk. I never expected this guy would be like this when he's drunk. No wonder his girlfriend doesn't like him drinking. This is too dangerous." However, Yi Wanwan was beyond Han Xianyu's control already. She completely ignored what he said and voluntarily started chatting with Chiao Ko-exayan. Jia, how about letting me read your palm?" Chiao Ko-exayan got excited as she sat closer to him and asked with interest, "You even know how to read palms?" "I'm pretty good at it." When the young man looked into her eyes, his pair of peach blossom eyes seemed to have the ability to blow a petal away. Chiao Ko-exayan encountered many of these low tricks to get girls before, but somehow, when this Yi Bai did it, she didn't find it cliched or lame. Thus, she stretched her red manicured hand out. "Oh. Then tell me, who will the Golden Orchid Best Actress Award go to this time? Is it me?" Yi Wanwan held Chiao Ko-exayan's hand and put on a show, looking at the lines on her palm earnestly then said, "The leading actress award this year obviously belongs to you, Jia." As she watched the Golden Orchid Awards ceremony for this year out of boredom in her previous life, she could easily recall the recipients for each award. Chiao Ko-exayan giggled and whined, feigning unhappiness. "So insincere with your flattery." Everyone knew the hottest star right now was a different famous actress. The young man said with all seriousness, "I'm not trying to please you, Jia, you're really the recipient of this year's Golden Orchid Best Actress Award." Not only did I manage to predict that you'll be the best actress, I also predicted the other recipients. The Best Actor award will go to Senior Lee Jong-yi, the Best Supporting Actress will be Lin Jia-in, the Best Supporting Actor will be Meng Liang-ju, and the Best Newcomer will be... Xiao Ko-exan couldn't help but burst out in laughter. PFFF, I finally understand what tongue-in-cheek means. Han Xianyu was totally helpless as he listened to Yi Bai spouting nonsense. Yi Bai sensed that they didn't believe his words, so he said, Jia, I'm serious. If you don't believe me, let's have a wager. Sure, what do you want to bet on? Xiao Ko-exan giggled. The young man's eyes shifted slightly. If there are any mistakes in the award winners I mentioned just now, then I lose. If I lose, Jia, you may do anything you want to me, but if I win... So what, if you win? I'll get a kiss from Jia then. Xiao Ko-exan was taken aback at first, then she blushed scarlet red. You, cheeky. Han Xianyu watched as Yi Bai kept flirting. His face turned almost completely black and his head started hurting as he supported it with his hand. Yi Bai, stop messing around. Bro, did you forget that you have a girlfriend? Where are your morals? Han Xianyu was totally flabbergasted. This was the first time he witnessed Xiao Ko-exan blush in her entire history of interacting with all sorts of fresh meat. Since Han Xianyu invited Yi Bai along, he was worried he'd go too far, so he quickly helped Yi Bai up and left. Han Xianyu drove towards the apartment while Yi Wanwan sat in the passenger's seat next to him. Yi Bai seemed drunk since his gaze remained glued to his face. Han Xianyu thought he drank too much and felt unwell, so he drove faster and tilted his head slightly to glance at the young man next to him. Are you okay? Do you need to puke? I have garbage bags in the car. In the passenger seat, the young man's gaze slowly returned to focus as he kept staring at Han Xianyu's face. Then he laughed suddenly and the light from his dazzling smile diffused into the atmosphere. His eyes were like thousands of white flowers blossoming. Ah, why would I feel like puking when I'm looking at such a beautiful face? Screech! Han Xianyu lost control of his steering for a moment, making the car skid and form an S on the road. After quite a shock, they finally arrived at the apartment. Han Xianyu quickly helped Yi Bai to his doorstep and couldn't wait to throw him into the house. This guy is really bad at drinking. Never mind if he got drunk and flirted with girls, but he doesn't even let men off. The image of that smile Yi Bai gave him in the car just now surfaced in his head and his heart skipped a few beats. This troublemaker. Initially, he thought Yi Bai's girlfriend was too strict with him, but now, he really sympathized with her. Han Xianyu sighed as he helped Yi Bai out of the lift and was about to step forward when he suddenly saw a man standing by the door. It's that Ajo, Yi Bai's friend. The man seemed to have come straight from a black tie affair as he was dressed in a plain black formal suit. The perfect tailoring outlined his slender waist and he emanated a cold vibe from his eyes. His high nose, deep eyes as dark as ink and lips stained with a light cherry color came together to form a perfectly stunning face. As the atmosphere was uncomfortably chilly, the whole space suddenly felt really cramped. That man's bone-breaking cold gaze landed on him, making him feel guilty as if he'd just been caught for committing adultery. Han Xianyu was in a daze for a second before returning to his senses. He quickly said, "Cough, Mr. C, were you looking for Yi Bai? This guy's drunk." The moment Han Xianyu said that, Yi Bai's eyes lit up as bright as day as he pushed him aside and walked towards the man standing opposite. Beauty. Han Xianyu, beauty. You called a big man beauty? Aren't you afraid he'll punch you? Han Xianyu wanted to stop him, but Yi Bai was like a wild horse let loose. His eyes looked as if they just spotted some prey and were focused on the strong and immortally handsome man in front of him. Beauty, have we met somewhere before? Han Xianyu's mouth started twitching when he heard that. It was the classic line used to hit on girls. Si Han was definitely able to keep his composure better than himself after being hit on by this guy. Si Han continued standing there with a frozen expression. It was terrifying just being in the same space as him. Yet the young man hadn't seemed to notice the danger ahead of him, so he kept teasing Si-han delightedly. Beautiful little Ge, I think we have an affinity with each other. Why don't you let me read your palm, huh? Han Xian-yu's head was filled with black lines, again? Yi Bai didn't wait for the man in front of him to agree. Right under Han Xian-yu's speechless gaze, he grasped the man's hand. How is this reading his palm? This guy simply caressed the man's hand a few times. After Yi Bai appeared satisfied with the reading he got from Si-han's palm, he kept up the act and predicted, Little Ge, I see you're shrouded in a favorable aura and you possess the supreme power of an emperor, but what a pity, your marriage line is thin and faint. You're destined to have a disastrous wedding, and you'll be alone for eternity. If you wish to break the curse, there's only one way. The young man's face was very grave. When Han Xian-yu witnessed this, he was almost convinced Yi Bai really knew how to read palms and listened eagerly for the solution to break the curse. Oh. What is it? The man asked, expressionless. The young man stroked his hand and replied simultaneously, Don't worry, little Ge. You don't have to be nervous. You're just lacking me in your life, so sleep with me once and you'll be fine. Si-han, Han Xian-yu almost choked, as if anyone would believe your bullshit. After they both returned to their respective apartments, Han Xian-yu shook his head and paced around his living room anxiously. In the end, he walked to his bedroom and glued his ear to the wall, trying to eavesdrop on any conversation going on in the neighboring apartment. But the sound insulation was too good and he couldn't hear a thing. Could something happen between the two of them? Now he finally understood why Yi Bai's friend didn't seem very straight. Was he forced to be gay by that guy's relentless flirting? Next door, Yi Wanwan was like a big bad wolf, dragging Si-han and slowly leading him into the bedroom. Beauty, why don't you join me in looking at the stars and the moon tonight? We'll talk about poetry and the philosophy of life. I promise I won't do anything to you. As she spoke, she simultaneously pulled the man to the bed. Si-han wasn't in the mood to play and he brushed away the little hands getting busy with his collar. His voice was frozen without a tinge of warmth as he said, If it wasn't me tonight, would you bring him to bed instead? After Yi Wanwan's hands were brushed aside, she could sense that he was angry, so she stroked him lightly, lifted her head and grinned. That's impossible, little Ge, you're the only one for me. I'll only sleep with you alone. Si-han took a deep breath, looking like he really wanted to strangle her but also wanted to bury her in his embrace at the same time. He bent down and forcefully bit down on her lips while his big palms unfastened the buttons of her top, one by one. But then, something he touched didn't feel right. He looked down and realized her entire chest to waist area was bound tightly. The man furrowed his brows and slowly helped her out of the binding. Although Yi Wanwan was already drunk, she still had the ability to assume her male identity. She quickly freed herself and pinned Si-han down on the bed. Her watery peach blossom eyes blinked and her hands pressed on his palms. Beauty, don't be naughty. When she pinned him down, her wig fell off and her fine black hair was let loose. Si-han stared at her flushed little face, her eyes sparkling like stars, her hair falling on her shoulders and the delicate collarbones peeking out of her top. His eyes darkened instantly and his big palms grasped the girl's waist as he gritted his teeth and exclaimed, Look carefully, who am I? Yi Wanwan laid on Si-han's chest and stared at him as if there was only him in the entire universe. Her voice slowly recovered its girly, soft and sweet tone as she said, I can see you clearly, you're a beauty, my little Ge, my baby. She rubbed against his neck lightly and her voice became even gentler, Baby brought me clothes when I was cold, fed me porridge, baby has a white tiger. I love baby. Seeing the gentleness and warmth in her eyes and feeling the softness on his neck, Si-han was stunned, Damn it, woman. You think I would let you off just like that? The next morning, Yi Wanwan realized she was lying in bed, had changed into clean pajamas and the wig on her head was gone. She had returned to being a girl somehow, and she was in so much shock that she immediately stumbled out of bed. She drank over her limits last night and couldn't recall what happened at all. She only remembered going to a pool party with Han Xianyu. Did Han Xianyu find out my secret? Yi Wanwan put on her slippers and rushed out of the bedroom. Then she saw Si Han drinking a cup of coffee in the living room. After she saw Si Han, Yi Wanwan heaved a sigh of relief and her heart calmed down. Baby, weren't you overseas? Oh no, why is it so late already? I have to go to the office. Yi Wanwan saw the time and quickly got dressed. Si Han looked suspiciously at her without saying a word, an aura of discontentment emanating from his body. After disguising her looks all these years, Yi Wanwan was very adept at it and was able to put on her disguise very quickly. Compared to the exotic makeup she put on daily in the past, dressing up as a man was much simpler to her. All she had to do was draw coarser eyebrows and shadows around her face to make it look more masculine and three-dimensional, and she was done. Before, she sold all her messy outfits in one go on a second-hand website and exchanged them for all sorts of menswear. As she headed to the office, Yi Wanwan donned a more formal Western suit with a white shirt underneath. The collar had vintage embroidery on it and a rose pattern was sewn on the chest pocket. Also, she covered her overly dazzling and attractive eyes with her bangs slightly. When she came out of her room again, Yi Wanwan transformed from being the girl who just woke up in a daze to an upper-class elegant little prince from medieval Europe. Baby, where did you put my insole last night? Yi Wanwan asked anxiously. Although she seemed very small when she stood next to Si Han, she actually wasn't very short. But her insoles helped her look more manly, so she couldn't go without them. Yi Wanwan looked around for her insoles and took a peek at Si Han. She was sharp and noticed that Si Han had bags under his eyes. She couldn't help but think, Si Han didn't sleep well last night. Did my sleep-in seconds skill fail? What was even more shocking, was she noticed something on Si Han's neck from the corner of her eyes. In the next second, Yi Wanwan charged over and pulled open Si Han's collar. Fuck. Baby, you actually slept around behind my back. The iciness in Si Han's eyes finally shattered. Even his voice was extremely menacing as he said, enunciating each word carefully, I slept around. Yi Wanwan pointed at the hickeys on his neck and unfastened his buttons. You're still trying to deny it? Look at the hickeys on your neck, and here and some here too. There's even a bite here. It's a complete eyesore. I never imagined that you would be this sort of person. Si Han's face was as black as the underside of a pot. He pushed her hand aside and fastened his buttons, obviously pissed off. If I knew she'd act this way, I wouldn't have let her off so easily last night. At that moment, the doorbell suddenly rang. Yi Wanwan shot a look at Si Han, then went to get the door. Han Xianyu stood at the door. After seeing Yi Wanwan's clothes, a hint of surprise clearly flashed across his eyes. Then he stretched his head inside and said, Morning, I bought breakfast. Do you want to eat together? Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Yi Wanwan looked at the bags in Han Xianyu's hands and didn't want him to get suspicious, so her face brightened as she pulled the door open to let him in. Thank you. Why are you up so early when you're on leave? Han Xianyu rubbed his nose and didn't know how to respond. How can I tell him that I stuck my ear to the wall the entire night so I didn't sleep at all? Nothing happened to these two, right? With that thought, Han Xianyu entered and immediately saw the man sitting at the dining table with his frozen face and messy collar. Han Xianyu turned to Yi Wanwan immediately with an inexplicable expression. He moved closer to her ear and whispered, trying to probe, Yi Bai, last night, you didn't do anything to your friend, did you? Yi Wanwan was confused. My friend? Are you referring to Audiobook? What did I do to him? Han Xianyu noticed she'd completely forgotten what she was like last night and was speechless. Don't you remember? You were drunk last night and started hitting on him, calling him a beauty, a little gege, and insisted on reading his palm. You pulled his hand and caressed it for a long time before telling him that he'd be alone for life and even said he's lacking you in his life. The curse would be lifted only if he slept with you, then you forcefully dragged him into the apartment. I couldn't stop you and was worrying about you guys the whole night. Yi Wanwan, what? Han Xianyu's words was like a 400-kilogram sledgehammer, slamming down on Yi Wanwan's head forcefully, making her see stars, and the world was spinning out of control around her. What did you just say? Yi Wanwan stared at him blankly. Han Xianyu coughed lightly. You really don't remember, huh? While Yi Wanwan and Han Xianyu were whispering, Si Han could still hear them clearly. After rearranging his collar meticulously, he looked at her with frosty eyes. Yi Wanwan swallowed and didn't dare to meet Si Han's gaze. She continued staring at Han Xianyu and said, how could that be? Why would I do something like that? I have only my girlfriend in my heart, stop talking nonsense. Han Xianyu looked at her helplessly. I'm talking nonsense. Not only did you hit on your friend last night, you even hit on Xanjia, don't you remember? The moment Han Xianyu said that, Si Han's face turned uglier. Oh, great. Who's Xanjie? Yi Wanwan was stupefied. Han Xianyu, Xiao Ku Xan. Yi Wanwan. Best Actress Xiao. Xiao Ku Xan. My goddess. Han Xianyu helped her refresh her memory. Xanjia was quite interested in you, so in order to help you escape the situation, I told her you were taken and weren't the sleazy type. But in the end, you turned on me and said you were exactly that type and also wanted to read Xanjia's palm. You told her she would win this year's Golden Orchid Best Actress Award. Not only did you predict that she would win Best Actress, you even predicted the Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress and Actor and Newcomer, then you made a bet with her. Beeb, bet on what? Yi Wanwan had a bad feeling about this. Han Xianyu glanced at her. You said if she won, then she could do whatever she wanted to you, and if you won, she had to give you a kiss. Yi Wanwan, this can't be true. How could I be such an immoral person? Just as the world crumbled down around Yi Wanwan, Han Xianyu looked deep into her eyes and then said, you even hit on me. Yi Wanwan turned to look at Si Han mournfully, Daddy, please listen to my explanation, liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Han Xianyu had no idea his words had given Yi Wanwan away completely and pressed on, you simply flirted with Xanjia and me, but your friend was in a more terrible plight, a big man like him was taken advantage of by you. You didn't really do anything to him, right? Yi Wanwan, so all those marks on Si Han's body were caused by me? Stop talking, leave me alone. Han Xianyu sensed that something was off in the atmosphere, so he left after giving her the breakfast. In a flash, there was only Yi Wanwan and Si Han alone in the apartment. Yi Wanwan debated between rushing out and begging him for forgiveness. After a very long time, she didn't dare to just leave things like that, so she walked carefully towards Si Han. Baby. I was wrong. I was the one messing around. I'm immoral. I'm the eyesore. Shit, what should I do? I know I violated the agreement, but to err is human, nobody is infallible. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone. Yi Wanwan couldn't come up with any more phrases, so she simply used this, Wanwan's your beloved little darling. So, can you give Wanwan a chance, please? The man looked at her coldly with a faint smile, his feelings were obvious. Yi Wanwan knew she was in deep trouble this time, so she raised her hand and said, I would like to file an appeal. Last night, Han Xianyu was kind enough to introduce me to some people in the entertainment industry when he brought me to a party. Baby, you know how parties are, you have to drink a little, and I wanted to just drink for show at first to maintain my persona, but I didn't expect to get drunk so easily. I have no recollection of what happened afterwards. I really didn't know I couldn't hold my liquor well. Seeing that Si Han had no reaction, Yi Wanwan became desperate. Baby, why don't we do this? From today onwards, I'll be your sweet little pillow, anywhere and anytime. I'll be there whenever you feel like sleeping, what do you think? Si Han gave her a sideways glance and said icily, isn't it more convenient if I locked you up in bed? Yi Wanwan's little heart shivered when she heard that. She racked her brains and replied, there's a difference, it's so boring if you lock me up in bed, if you don't, we can unlock many different positions, we can do it in the dormitory, office, home, car, outdoors, am I right? Si Han, Yi Wanwan hopped over. Don't be mad anymore, alright? Though I was a little drunk and out of control, I was still faithful to you and in the end, baby, you were the one I brought to bed. Even when I was under the influence and lost awareness, it was still within my innate abilities to choose you. What does this prove? It says I'm true to you, baby. The corners of Si Han's lips moved upwards slightly. Yi Wanwan saw his face relaxed and immediately took that as a good sign. Baby's the best. Si Han, did I say she's forgiven? He pinched her delicate chin and got dangerously close to her as he mouthed each word carefully, Yi Wanwan, you really think I'm so easily fooled? With that position, Yi Wanwan pecked Si Han on the cheek, no. Baby, you're so clever and handsome. You're not easily fooled at all. It's just that you love me so much that you can't bear to bully me. Si Han, Wanwan's little class, in order to deal with the great devil, you must be shameless. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. At Dazzling Media, the news about an externally hired manager spread throughout the entire company. As expected, the senior managers were obviously unhappy, never mind that he didn't climb his way up, but he was so young to boot. Why doesn't he choose to be a celebrity instead since he's so young and good-looking? Why must he be a manager? After all, being a manager and an artiste wasn't the same, the earlier one debuted as an artiste the better, but a manager required lots of experience and extensive networks. Most of the managers started out as assistants or were in charge of marketing, they normally didn't have an artiste under them without working at least 3 to 5 years, so there were only a few managers in the industry who were under 30 years old. But the older employees knew in their hearts that Chairman Chu was already wary of this dictator, Zhou Wenbin, who held power over all the artistes. Thus, Chairman Chu gave Yi Bai extensive powers and made sure everyone agreed to cooperate with him. At the moment, everybody was just waiting to see what would happen. Nobody dared to choose a team, but it was obvious that not many people had a good feeling about Yi Bai. Zhou Wenbin had been rebuked by Yi Bai in front of Chairman Chu, and Yi Bai seemed capable on the surface, but Chairman Chu couldn't control what happened in private. This young guy didn't have any background, no backers, no experience, and the artiste he chose was way past his prime. How could he fight against Zhou Wenbin? There was chaos in the film studio. A group of newcomers were having their photos taken for publicity purposes. Many of them weren't even in their 20s yet, the youngest was only 16. All of them were at the age when they were freshest. Luo Chen arrived very early that morning. He still wore a plain t-shirt and jeans with a pair of old and washed-out sneakers as he waited silently in a corner. It was currently 9:10 a.m., 10 minutes past the time his manager told him yesterday. At that moment, an attractive-looking artiste was joking with some people and wasn't looking straight as he accidentally bumped into Luo Chen. Seeing that the person in his way was Luo Chen, the artiste's face suddenly turned ugly. Luo Chen. This artiste, Lin Hao, was under Zhou Wenbin as well. As his manager was the strongest in the company and the film he recently acted in was very popular, Lin Hao was in the limelight and a few newcomers crowded around him, trying to curry favor with him. News of the incident in Zhou Wenbin's office yesterday already spread, everyone knew the new manager chose an unpopular artiste under Zhou Wenbin, and rumor had it that Zhou Wenbin refused to let him go and used Lin Hao to switch with Luo Chen. What's worse was that the new manager refused to budge as he thought Lin Hao wasn't good enough, making Lin Hao the butt of the joke in the entire office. When he saw Luo Chen, Lin Hao naturally had a rage boiling inside him. He rubbed his chin and sized him up with a threatening gaze. "What are you doing here?" "My manager asked me to wait here." Luo Chen seemed to be accustomed to receiving this kind of treatment as he didn't move and stayed put as he replied expressionlessly. Lin Hao laughed out loud. Manager. That little Adonis who just entered the company." The newcomers next to Lin Hao also chimed in and sneered to please Lin Hao. Yo, I wondered who that was. Is he the future star the new manager handpicked? He has backing, so no wonder he's so arrogant now. He can't make a comeback just by changing his manager, can he? Even Chu Ji couldn't groom this garbage, yet he's still thinking of making a comeback. Lin Hao crossed his arms and laughed. Don't say that, guys. He's our senior after all since he debuted 3 years ago. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. The entertainment industry was really just a huge display of vanity. No matter how early you debuted, you'd be at the lowest level if you were unpopular. Like an ant, anyone could crush you. Luo Chen knew his rank very well after these 3 years. At first, he even tried to rebel and stand up for himself, but after a while, he became numb to all the mockery. Lin Hao glanced at the small-time artiste next to him and he immediately got the message. He knocked his shoulder straight into Luo Chen and said, "Sorry, we're about to start filming. Please leave, don't be a nuisance here." Before, Luo Chen might have just left without a word, but thinking about what his manager's warning from last night, he stopped in his tracks. The small-time artiste mockingly said, "Don't you understand the words of a human? I've never met anyone so shameless. Have you gone nuts from your dreams of becoming famous, senior? Weren't you delighted that you managed to hug a big thigh? Why do you still want to freeload on the filming of small-time artistes like us?" Noticing the ruckus, the cameraman yelled in annoyance, "Those who have nothing to do with this, get out. Don't disturb everyone else." The small-time artiste sneered, "Heard that? Crawl back to your owner." Luo Chen clenched his fists and turned around, ready to leave. However, the moment he turned around, a warm palm pressed onto his shoulders. The person appeared unhurried as he walked very leisurely and showed an indifferent expression. "Yo, it's so lively in here." Seeing Yi Bai appear, the arrogant small-time artiste turned pale. He glanced at Lin Hao. After all, this Yi Bai was an important person to Chairman Chu. Lin Hao's face darkened as he glared at the main culprit who embarrassed him so thoroughly. "Great Manager Yi, please look after your artiste carefully. Don't let him go around barking by himself." Yi Wanwan wanted to laugh. Even if she met Luo Chen only once, she knew how quiet he was, yet his guy claimed Luo Chen was the one barking. Yi Wanwan smiled, how I take care of my artist isn't important, but shutting 1 or 2 people out, that's a piece of cake." The moment Yi Wanwan said that, a raging fire blazed in Lin Hao's eyes and he sneered, "Shut me out? You? Who do you think you are? You're waving a chicken feather as a token of authority. You really think so highly of yourself? I'm one of Bin Ji's men. I don't think Yi Bai has the guts to touch me." Yi Wanwan still had that indifferent expression on her face. She looked suspiciously at the face that had gone through too many plastic surgeries, then casually made a call. "Hello? Chairman Chu." Lin Hao, who looked fearless up until now, turned totally pale the instant he saw Yi Wanwan call Chairman Chu. Yi Wanwan continued in a very relaxed tone, "Haha, Chairman Chu, it's nothing much. I just wanted to shut someone out, so I'm asking you to extend your powers. There's this dumb guy who said I was waving a chicken feather as a token of authority. Oh, I don't have to go through you. Just shut him out if I want to." Hearing that, Lin Hao couldn't maintain his composure anymore and his whole body started trembling. And the artistes who mocked Luo Chen together with Lin Hao didn't dare to make a sound. They collectively retreated backwards silently, afraid they'd be dragged down with him. Yi Wanwan curled her lips, looked at the pale-faced Lin Hao then continued, but he's an artist under director Zhou. What? I can shut off any artist who's below B-list. Alright, thank you so much, Chairman Chu. Upon hearing that, Lin Hao couldn't hold it in anymore and rushed to Yi Bai. Yi, Manager Yi. I was wrong. I was rash. I shouldn't have been rude towards you. Please give me one more chance. I won't dare be so disrespectful next time. As Lin Hao panicked, he didn't show a single shred of arrogance. Yi Bai's phone call was like a hammer, knocking him to his senses instantly. Since he rose in popularity after his show, many newcomers to the industry attempted to get closer to him to suck up to him, and it got to his head. He forgot he was just a C-list artist. On the other hand, Yi Bai was someone appointed by Chairman Chu. Even Bin Ji had been avoiding trouble recently and didn't dare go against Yi Bai. Yi Bai already consulted Chairman Chu, and Bin Ji was even willing to switch Lin Hao for Luo Chen yesterday. Today, Bin Ji could give Lin Hao up completely to save himself. I could really be shut off any time. Yi Wanwan forced a smile and looked straight into Lin Hao's eyes. I'm not the one you should be apologizing to. Lin Hao's face darkened as he clenched his fists tightly. Finally, he turned to Luo Chen and said, enunciating each word carefully, Senior Luo Chen, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. After that, he immediately turned to Yi Wanwan anxiously. Was that alright, Yi Ji? Please explain to Chairman Chu. I've learned from my mistakes. Yi Wanwan was finally satisfied, so she took her phone out and placed it directly in front of Lin Hao. Everyone including Lin Hao saw the contacts directory on the screen. Yi Wanwan didn't make a call at all just now. Lin Hao opened his mouth, dumbfounded, and he stared blankly at Yi Wanwan's phone. After he came to his senses over what happened, his entire face was the color of pig's liver. I was fooled. This damn Adonis, he actually fooled me like a monkey. Lin Hao's lungs nearly exploded and he was about to curse, but his gaze met Yi Bai's ice-cold eyes. This was just a warning. In other words, if Lin Hao dared to provoke Yi Bai again, he would really make the call. And if he really made that call? With that thought, Lin Hao didn't dare to let out a single sound. He pushed away from the crowd and left in a huff. After everyone else saw the tactics of this new manager, none of them dared to protest and they immediately scattered like birds. After all, compared to Lin Hao, they were even more unimportant. Luo Chen looked around the suddenly empty film studio, then looked at his manager who was still very relaxed. Luo Chen's shoulders still felt the warmth from his touch. He was already used to all this mockery, but this was the very first time someone actually stood up for someone as worthless as him. At this moment, after witnessing this attack from Yi Bai, this new manager who had just taken office, the cameraman was afraid he'd become the target of Yi Bai's second attack. He quickly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and explained, so sorry, Yi Ji, you made an appointment yesterday, but because these newcomers had urgent publicity needs and needed their photos taken ASAP, I let them go first. Yi Bai didn't seem to have the intention of punishing him as he pulled a chair, sat down and commanded, let's start. All right. The cameraman heaved a sigh of relief and quickly ushered everyone to get ready. At the same time, Luo Chen was also led into the makeup room to change his clothes and get styled. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. When Luo Chen walked out of the makeup room, everyone's eyes lit up. Before, his hair was too long, so Luo Chen looked a little disheveled. Now, his black hair was short and his fringe had been trimmed, revealing a bright and full forehead and a pair of glistening eyes. It was unlike those deliberately drawn, European, and thick double eyelids that looked dull and lifeless once makeup was removed. The outer corners of Luo Chen's eyes were sloped upwards. Like people in the olden days, his double eyelids were extremely natural and his thin lips were the shade of cherry blossoms, making them look extremely kissable. His skin was perfectly smooth without a single pore visible. The clothes Luo Chen was wearing was requested by Yi Wanwan, it wasn't too over the top. He wore a classic white-collared top and the only design on it was the star embroidered on his collar. For his bottoms, he wore a pair of black pants. This look was neat and simple, matching Luo Chen's slightly cool and distant temperament. It was just like the ignorant yet hopeful figure in everyone's teenage memory. No wonder Zhou Wenbin didn't want to give Luo Chen up even after 3 years. Luo Chen was simply too pure, and in the entertainment industry, this was extremely hard to come by. Since he hadn't had such a drastic makeover for a long time, Luo Chen was a little uncomfortable with the staff and Yi Wanwan sizing him up. "Yiji, what do you think? Is it all right?" the makeup artist asked. "Not bad." Yi Wanwan nodded. "Most importantly, Luo Chen has a good foundation. His skin's very soft and I didn't have to do much." Although the makeup artist was just saying all this to curry favor, she also genuinely meant it at the same time. After so many years of being a makeup artist, she could easily tell with one look whether someone had undergone plastic surgery or not, and she was sure that this face of Luo Chen's was totally natural. In all fairness, Yi Bai did have quite good taste. Judging by Luo Chen's face, there really weren't many artists who could compare to him. In all of Dazzling, only Gong Su could really match up to him. At this moment, the cameraman adjusted the lighting and walked towards them to ask, "Yi Ji, may I know what we're shooting today?" "Shooting a video," Yi Wanwan replied. The cameraman was under the assumption he'd be taking publicity photos for Luo Chen and wasn't prepared to shoot a video. He was somewhat taken aback as he asked, "Shooting a video? What's it about?" Luo Chen, who was standing at the side quietly, also turned to look out of curiosity. Yi Wanwan opened a document from her phone and showed it to Luo Chen. "Do you still remember this line?" Luo Chen looked at her phone and in the next second, he was totally stunned. It was a line from Terrifying Dragon. "Remember?" "How could I not? I remember every single line of Terrifying Dragon clearly, without a single word missing." He was truly passionate about acting and loved being able to take on the roles of different characters. While he was acting in Terrifying Dragon, it was the happiest period of his life. During those 3 years after the show, the cast, crew members, and sword fights often appeared in his dreams. That was the only precious memory he had ever since he debuted. "Remember?" Luo Chen replied in a trance. "We'll film this part today." When Luo Chen heard that, he shuddered. They wanted him to reenact this part again. Yi Wanwan didn't waste any time. She leaned back on the seat and said directly, "If you don't have any issues, let's start right away. I'll give you 3 minutes to get into character." Luo Chen was stunned for a while before recovering his composure. He quickly made preparations while the cameraman hurriedly got his equipment ready. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. The lights and cameras were ready. Luo Chen was standing in front of the camera. Yi Wanwan sat on the chair opposite, waiting silently. Shortly after, 3 minutes had gone past. "Yi Wanwan, time's up." A hint of panic flashed across Luo Chen's eyes as he spoke hurriedly. "It was a sin for me to be born, my entire life. He probably wasn't used to being in front of the camera again, and now Luo Chen was stuck after saying just one phrase. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. Again. Luo Chen clenched his fists, took a deep breath and tried again. "It was a sin for me to be born, my entire life was a sin, everyone and I." As he was about to continue, Yi Wanwan simply cut him off. "Your expression's too stiff. I want you to reenact the scene, not recite lines here." Again. Luo Chen's face turned paler. He closed his eyes to calm himself down, then started again. "I was." However, this time, only 2 words managed to leave his mouth before he was stuck yet again. There was no color on Luo Chen's face anymore. He was as white as a sheet of paper. "Sorry." Yi Wanwan didn't have any expression on her face. Again. On the 4th take, Luo Chen still wasn't able to put any emotion into his acting. Yi Wanwan shouted, "Cut," continuously. Luo Chen hadn't passed a single take after over 10 tries. After the 20th take and watching Luo Chen's performance turn from bad to worse with each take, Yi Wanwan stopped rapping on the armrest of the chair and looked as if her patience was wearing thin. There was no warmth on her face. As if sensing the manager's unhappiness, the entire atmosphere in the filming studio was suffocating, nobody even dared to breathe. And under all the immensely anxious gazes from everyone, Luo Chen was soaking wet from his sweat and his fists were tightly clenched. I can't do it. As expected, I can't do it. Before, he was like a fish in the water in front of the camera, but now, standing in front of the camera with everyone's eyes on him made his entire body stiffen up and shiver. It was totally beyond his control and he even started to develop feelings of repulsion towards himself. Yi Wanwan naturally noticed something was wrong with Luo Chen. Not only did he find being in front of the camera repulsive, he also found himself repulsive. The Luo Chen in the past was very bright, he was confident in front of the camera like it was his main stage, his empire, but now, being in front of the camera was like being trapped in a cage. His entire body was bound by an invisible chain. She also noticed that Luo Chen seemed to hate his own face and kept hiding from the camera subconsciously. Although she expected some of this behavior, Luo Chen's condition was worse than she thought. Yi Wanwan slammed the table next to her suddenly with a loud "pa" and said icily, "This face of yours is your greatest strength. It's a gift many yearn to have. It's been bestowed upon you by God to help you put food in your mouth. You hate it for bringing you bad luck? Let me tell you, everything bad that happened to you wasn't because of your face, but it was because you were weak and incompetent." Meng Liang received the Best Actor award when he was around 18 years old. As his mother fell ill, he went MIA for 6 years, then came back only when he was 24 years old. Yet, he still managed to get another award as Best Actor. Li Zhongyi was acting in supporting male roles for 30 years and got his first role as the male lead only when he was 53 and immediately shot to fame. Xiao Kuexian was ridiculed ever since she debuted, but she kept swimming against the current and is making her way up, not showing any signs of weakness at all. Today, she's nominated for the Golden Orchid's Best Actress Award. You've only lost 3 years of your life and were treated unfairly, yet you think it's the end of your life? With those words, Yi Wanwan's expression froze. In a place like the entertainment industry, if you want to reach the top, you have to go through things hundreds, maybe even 1,000 times worse than this while under immense pressure. If you're not strong enough, then I'm very sorry, but I suggest you leave the entertainment industry soon. I won't waste my time on an artist who doesn't have any conviction. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. In a moment, the atmosphere in the film studio solidified into a big block of ice. The person who was normally very easygoing and was always so relaxed like a good-for-nothing man from a wealthy family suddenly became a demon. A terrifying aura emanated from all around him. Even the cameraman and other workers were dumbstruck by this sudden explosion of dreadful aura, much less Luo Chen, who was in the heart of the typhoon. Luo Chen was trembling. There was no color on his face at all, his thin lips were in a straight line, and his entire body almost combusted into flames by the deafening tongue lashing he got. He really wished he could disappear into the air. Yi Wanwan curbed her anger slightly, but the coldness on her face did not lessen as she said, "Now, this is your last chance. If you keep this up, our collaboration shall end here." When Luo Chen heard the last 5 words, his eyes constricted and he lifted his head immediately. Am I going to be given up on once again? His contract with Dazzling hadn't ended yet. If Yi Bai gave up on him now, his management would return to Zhou Wenbin's hands. Yi Wanwan swept her gaze over the workers. Everyone, get ready. All the workers were stunned for a long time before returning to their senses. The cameraman quickly adjusted the angle, the lighting director adjusted the light accordingly, and the makeup artist rushed over to wipe Luo Chen's sweat and retouched his makeup. Seeing the boy's pale white face, the makeup artist sympathized with him but couldn't help him. The entertainment industry was a place where the weak fell prey to the strong. Although what Yi Bai said was pretty harsh, it was the truth. Very soon, everything was in place and the light shone on Luo Chen alone. Everyone's eyes were on that boy in white top standing in the middle of the spotlight. Luo Chen stood there vacant and lifeless, unable to free himself from Yi Wanwan's words. He looked so fragile, like he could break with just one touch. It feels as if I was abandoned by the entire world. Begin. Following Yi Wanwan's order to begin, the red light on the camera started flashing. Everyone held their breath subconsciously. 1 second went by, 2 seconds went by, 3 seconds went by. Luo Chen still stood there like he'd lost his soul, not moving or speaking at all. After a few seconds, there was still no reaction from Luo Chen. He was like a lifeless puppet. The makeup artist shook her head, feeling sorry for him, while the cameraman also sighed and prepared to turn his camera off. The face of the young man sitting on the seat opposite was gradually turning frosty as well. Ending the unendurable dead silence, Yi Wanwan finally spoke up, "Since this is the case." The moment Yi Wanwan spoke, a low and hoarse laugh resounded in the huge filming studio. Ha! Under the spotlight, Luo Chen lowered his gaze and suddenly let out a chuckle. Luo Chen shortly raised his head. His clear eyes swept across everyone in the room. I've been kind towards people my entire life, yet everyone has cheated and insulted me. I have a clear conscience in heaven and earth, yet this heaven and earth also despised and hated me. With those words, the teenager suddenly started laughing. His smile was like a blossoming flower with thorns around it. He was simply standing in the film studio, but it felt as if there was a strong wind howling crazily around him. His clean and innocent face was stained with enormous sentiment, and he stirred up strong emotions in everyone. A little madness leaked out of his gloomy eyes as he said, "So, from today onwards, I'm the only one who can stop myself. There shall be a massacre. I won't spare any humans. I'll kill every human on this earth. The world denies me. I shall destroy this universe." The moment he said this last line, it was as if something terrifying had broken free from its shackles and escaped from his body in that split second, howling and rushing towards the 9th celestial sphere. Silence. Everyone in the film studio was flabbergasted. They stared blankly at Luo Chen, who seemed as if he had become another person completely. He was obviously still the same person, yet that face, how could it become so terrifying? An indeterminate amount of time had passed when everyone finally regained their senses and realized that Luo Chen was acting. Just now he was reenacting a classic scene from Terrifying Dragon, when the big triad boss turned dark. It was too earth-shaking. Terrifying Dragon was a sensational hit before, almost everyone watched it, and what Luo Chen reenacted made everyone recall that scene from Terrifying Dragon instantly. At this moment, present-day Luo Chen was akin to the teenager, Lin Luo Chen, from the show, who was also forced to his doom. Even though Luo Chen was wearing a modern outfit, the outcome of his acting wasn't inferior to the original scene at all. It was even more moving watching it now. However, with the manager's residual hostility still lingering, everyone still didn't dare to utter a word. Their eyes all turned towards him sitting silently on the chair. Luo Chen's performance was so exceptional, he'll be able to pass, right? Luo Chen calmed down a little before coming out of character. The aura around him dissipated instantly and he was back to his usual self. He stared uneasily at his manager. His body was tense as he stood stiffly on the spot. It was as if he was standing there waiting for his final judgment. After a moment of silence, Yi Wanwan slowly stood up. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly made her way towards the teenager. As she got closer, the teenager got more and more nervous and stiff, even his breathing almost stopped from looking at the manager's cold expression. Finally, Yi Wanwan stood directly in front of the teenager. She stretched out her hand and touched the teenager's soft black hair, and her tone was like melting ice as she spoke gently, "See, you can do a good job, right?" Luo Chen's face went blank. His bright eyes were wide open, and in the next second, tears started streaming down his beautiful face as he looked down and sobbed silently. Yi Wanwan didn't expect this reaction at all, and her hand in the teenager's hair stiffened up. Did I overdo it?" Why is he crying? I actually made him cry. Was I too fierce? Was I really fierce just now? Yi Wanwan's heart was pulled into chaos, but she had to maintain her dignity and persona, so she expressionlessly passed a handkerchief to him. She said coldly, "Why are you crying? Real men don't cry this easily." Luo Chen choked with sobs, nodded, then took the handkerchief from her carefully as wiped the tears off quickly. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. In the office. Do you have any background in martial arts? Yi Wanwan asked. Luo Chen pressed his lips, a little, but... Before, he got some training in order to film Terrifying Dragon, but that was 3 years ago after all. Yi Wanwan passed him a timetable. You're probably unfamiliar with it since you haven't practiced it for so long, so I've arranged martial arts training sessions for you. Just focus on practicing with the master these next few days, don't bother with anything else, and most importantly, don't bother with those unimportant people. A lion never turns its head to a dog's barking. Luo Chen nodded seriously and unquestioningly took the timetable. He didn't ask why his manager was forcing him to go for martial arts training when other managers signed their artists up to sing and dance. He also didn't question why Yi Wanwan made him do the filming today. Seeing how obedient Luo Chen was, Yi Wanwan's heart softened. You can't afford a team for now, so just work with the temps in the company for now. In the future, you'll definitely have a team of your own. Her words seemed like a promise, but it was more like a prophecy that he'd be able to make it big. Luo Chen looked at the man's icy cold face and a sense of warmth entered his dead heart. For the next while, Luo Chen led a mundane life. Aside from visiting his mom at the hospital, he only went to the company building for martial arts training. At the company, everyone waited in anticipation to see what Yi Bai was up to. In the end, nobody would have guessed that after Luo Chen filmed a video, he wouldn't do anything other than attending his training sessions every day. Why is Yi Bai making his artist attend martial arts training? Isn't it a waste of time? Is he being prepped to be a martial arts actor? He really has a weird way of doing things. Luo Chen ignored all the weird gazes and gossip around him and did whatever he needed to do every day. At the same time, Lin Hao took up a role as the main lead in a youth idol drama series. Being cast to play the role of the male lead after debuting not long ago was enough to make all the newcomers envious. Lin Hao's future was undoubtedly bright. Today, Lin Hao came to the office as usual with an entourage of newcomers and interns trying to curry his favor. When he walked past Luo Chen, Lin Hao stopped in his tracks and was no longer as sorry as he looked that day when Yi Wanwan fooled him. He was back to his arrogant self as he looked disdainfully at Luo Chen like he was looking at a lowly ant. His face looked as if speaking a word to him would lower his status. Upon seeing Luo Chen's sweaty body, the group of little fresh meat started sneering at him. Senior Luo Chen's really pitiful. He went for training yet again. He's so hardworking, his future must be limitless. After all, he's following a dog manager who counts on Chairman Chu's support. Oops, wrong, I meant he's following a capable master. All the best, Senior Luo Chen. Senior Luo Chen, please give me your autograph. I'm afraid the next time we see you, we won't even be qualified to speak to you. Everyone started laughing once they were done with their mockery. Luo Chen wiped the sweat off his forehead. His gaze swept across everyone without emotion and he left without a word. Upstairs, in Zhou Wenbin's office, Zhou Wenbin fiddled with the new antique that just arrived as he asked, "How's the young lad doing so far?" The plump manager quickly replied, "Bin Ji, don't worry. He hasn't done anything yet, he's probably just bluffing, trying to act all mysterious." "Don't let your guard down," Zhou Wenbin looked disapprovingly at him. The man rubbed his hands together as he sucked up to him, "Bin Ji, like what you said before, you're Bin Ji after all and have been in the industry for over 20 years. There isn't anything you haven't seen before. A youngster like him can't fight against you. Chairman Chu will find out very soon that Dazzling has to rely on you." Zhou Wenbin's mood lifted as he listened to all the flattery. He asked casually, "How's Gong Su doing recently?" "Binji, don't worry, Gong Su's quite well behaved and hasn't caused any trouble so far. The scandal from before has subsided as well, he should be able to show up in a few days." And Zhou Wenbin blew the porcelain in his hands lightly and nodded, satisfied. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. A few days later. Luo Chen was the same as before, dragging his exhausted body home. A musty smell filled his shabby and narrow rental apartment. Even the white paint on the walls was peeling off. 2 weeks had gone by in a blink of an eye. Aside from martial arts training sessions, his manager hadn't arranged anything else for him. No publicity, no assignments, no casting at all. In order to attend his training, he resigned from all his odd jobs. His mother's medical bills were getting more and more expensive. The over 10,000 yuan he received before wouldn't last much longer, and if he didn't have an income. Luo Chen showered, then turned on his television, distracted. The television screen flashed for a long time before the images appeared. Some entertainment news was on and a trailer for a show was playing. Luo Chen was stunned when he saw the trailer on the screen. It was Terrifying Dragon. In the trailer, the main lead, Ling Xiaozhe, moved gracefully. His face was extremely dashing. Even though Luo Chen was the secondary lead before, his role was very likable, so he was just as popular as the main lead and shared the limelight with Ling Xiaozhe, even surpassing him slightly. But today, 3 years later, Ling Xiaozhe signed a contract with Yi Group's Emperor Sky Entertainment and currently holds the same status as Han Xianyu as a minor manager of Emperor Sky. As for him, Luo Chen looked at the television, which had started to flicker once again as a trace of bitterness appeared on his face. The sorrowful voice of the female host emitted from the television. 3 days ago, the well-known martial arts novelist, Mr. Lin Zong, passed away after living to a ripe age of 83. The literature and entertainment world have expressed their condolences. Hearing that statement, Luo Chen was dumbfounded. Old Mr. Lin Zong actually passed away. In order to prevent his mind from being muddled by the sneers and ridicule from the people around him, he had been busy training all this while, so he didn't keep up with the news. The voice from the television went on. As we all know, Lin Zong had many classic martial arts works, of which the most popular was Terrifying Dragon. 3 years ago, the series, Terrifying Dragon, was so popular throughout China that the actors in the series all rose to fame and became very active in the showbiz. Of course, the main lead who played the role of Yun Hai in Terrifying Dragon gained popularity overnight, and according to recent reports, he has taken up a role in the latest film by director Jiang. Following that was a lengthy speech introducing Ling Xiaozhe, and the script also included an introduction of some other stars from the show. As for him, all he got was this phrase: he was out of the showbiz right after Terrifying Dragon, and there's been no news about him ever since. At this moment, a familiar yet unfamiliar face appeared on the big screen behind the female host. On the screen, the teenager looked as perfect as a painting and was sparring in the sky with the main lead, Yun Hai, moving very naturally and fluidly. That's Lin Luo Chen. That's me. He was still in a daze when all of a sudden, his phone started ringing, interrupting his train of thought. Luo Chen shook his head and suppressed the haze in his head, then picked up the phone. Hello. When he saw the caller ID, Luo Chen was somewhat surprised. The person calling was an artiste who debuted around the same time as him. Although that artiste didn't start out as well as he did, he managed to progress well eventually, and they lost contact. Why is he calling now all of a sudden? Luo Chen had just picked up the call when an excited voice came through the receiver immediately. Luo Chen, you're really great. Good for you. I didn't realize that you could hide so well. Luo Chen was totally confused and he furrowed his brows. What? Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. The person on the other end was somewhat speechless. Why are you still faking it, huh? I really have no idea what you're talking about. Sensing that Luo Chen really wasn't bluffing, the caller said suspiciously, don't you know? You're popular now. Your Weibo post went viral. Weibo? Luo Chen turned on his laptop and signed into Weibo. His manager had gotten his Weibo account back, but he hadn't tried logging in until now. The laptop system was quite old, so it took a long time for Luo Chen to log in. Then, he was disconnected by the crazy surge of notifications. Luo Chen was silent for a few seconds. He hadn't come around to what was going on. After several attempts at logging in and turning off all the notifications, he finally managed to stay connected. He opened the main page of his Weibo and was stunned. He knew he hadn't posted on his Weibo for a very long time, but the latest post was updated 2 weeks ago. What he found most unbelievable was that this post had been reposted over 10,000 times and the number of likes was over 100,000, the comments were endless as well. A video was uploaded along with the Weibo post. Luo Chen opened the video and realized that it was a section from one of the classic scenes in Terrifying Dragon. It was the one he reenacted in the film studio the other day. But that was just a short clip from an old classic film. Why would it garner so much attention? He wasn't some popular artist anyway. The Weibo posts he posted before never got more than 100 reposts, only a few undying loyal fans left comments. Luo Chen patiently sat through the entire clip. In the video, the eyes of the teenager glistened as he cried, "If this world denies me, then I shall destroy this universe." The front part was taken from the old film, however, when it got to the last phrase, the video split into two. Half of it showed the original film while the other half played the clip that was filmed the other day. Destroy this universe, the video of him 3 years ago and the video of him taken 2 weeks ago in a modern outfit spoke these 3 words at the same time. When these 2 clips were placed side by side, even he was stunned by himself. At the same time, he also noticed the words in this Weibo post, "Long time no see, I'm back." This is equivalent to a public statement announcing my comeback. However, it probably wasn't popular when it was just posted 2 weeks ago, nobody probably noticed he posted this. But now, since old Mr. Lin Zong had passed away, the martial arts trend was revived in the entertainment industry once again. All the actors that were in Terrifying Dragon before had posted something related to the news on their Weibo, and this post of his had also been caught up in this wave of posts, becoming instantly popular. Luo Chen's gaze swept to the comments under the Weibo post. Luo Chen's favorite little baby, ah! The day has come. Luo Chen finally posted on Weibo. He's so dashing in the last 3 seconds. This ID was very familiar, it belonged to a die-hard fan who followed him ever since he shot to fame 3 years ago. Each time he posted something, she left comments up until he stopped making posts half a year ago and stopped receiving any advertisement projects. Sweet mom, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. What did I just see? What's the meaning of this post? Is my husband coming back again? I only love my Chen, the stars will never fall. This was also his die-hard fan. He didn't expect that after so long, he'd still see their posts. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Farmer's Sweet Spring Water, damn. I was still thinking about the whereabouts of the Lin Luo Chen in Terrifying Dragon, then I saw this post. Is the last 3 seconds how Luo Chen looks like now? Damn. He's even better looking than 3 years ago, huh? He actually hasn't turned ugly. Terrifying Dragon floating in the skies, he's definitely the artiste who shared the limelight with Ling Xiaozhe before. But I just can't figure out why he didn't rise to fame, it's such a pity. Professional troll, I just want to know why the new clip is only 3 seconds long. The appearance-obsessed party can't stand the hunger and thirst any longer. A good little sheep turning bad to become the big villain boss, isn't that awesome? Before, the final scene of Terrifying Dragon stopped here and everyone was on the edge of their seats. Just when will they be releasing the second season? It's been 3 long years. Diasmectite, don't you guys know? The director of Terrifying Dragon already posted on his Weibo and said the second season is confirmed. No matter who plays the other characters, only Luo Chen can take on the role of Lin Luo Chen. It looks as if time has stopped for him. He still looks exactly the same as the Lin Luo Chen from the past. Wrong, he's even more stunning now. Bored beauty, ah. Are they really filming the second season? It's really happening in my lifetime. I don't care what others want, Lin Luo Chen must be Luo Chen's role. I won't accept any other artiste acting as Lin Luo Chen. The rest of the comments were mostly fans of Terrifying Dragon, those who loved reading about Lin Luo Chen as well as passers-by and the appearance-obsessed party. Everyone assembled as one and formed an unstoppable big stream, working together and making this post become more and more popular. Luo Chen had already forgotten when people last paid attention to him. When he saw those enthusiastic comments and his post gaining more and more popularity, he was totally dazed and felt as if he was in a dream. He hadn't hung up yet and the envious voice of the caller came through the receiver. With so many reposts and attention, at this rate of popularity, you'll definitely be in the headlines tomorrow. After all, everyone was curious about what happened to you. What's more, there's the huge fan base of Lin Luo Chen and that poll on the actors for Terrifying Dragon 2. You've already secured the first place in the poll for the role of Lin Luo Chen. Oh right, which expert helped you with that video? It's amazing. That artiste kept going on and only hung up after half an hour. Right after that, Luo Chen's phone started ringing again while he was still in a daze. There were calls from some other people in the industry either congratulating him or probing him with questions. Luo Chen stared at his phone that rang non-stop. He never realized that he actually had so many friends in the industry. The next morning, on Weibo's list of popular topics was the post of Luo Chen announcing his comeback. The first, second and third most popular searches were Luo Chen, Lin Luo Chen, Luo Chen's comeback, and Terrifying Dragon, sequel continues. Luo Chen's name had once again appeared before everyone's eyes overnight. It had only been about 10 hours since news of the post reached him, yet Luo Chen had suddenly risen to fame so rapidly. How could it be? In his office, Zhou Wenbin's face changed drastically when he heard the report from his subordinate. Since he took his artistes out for drinks with their sponsors the night before and had blacked out, he only heard the news that morning. Zhu Hangyong wiped the sweat off his chubby face and said, I never expected this either. Zhou Wenbin stared at the overflowing messages online and forced himself to remain calm. Just a Weibo post that became viral. Why are you panicking? Zhu Hangyong scowled miserably. Boo, but, Director Song posted on his Weibo that he'd be officially launching Terrifying Dragon 2, and there's even a casting vote in the post. At the moment, Luo Chen's in first place for the role of Lin Luo Chen. What? Terrifying Dragon 2 foot. Zhou Wenbin's face sunk and he was completely dumbfounded. Zhu Hangyong couldn't help but felt apprehensive. Since old Mr. Lin Zong passed away due to his illness, martial arts films suddenly became very popular, and following that, Director Song stated that in order to fulfill old Mr. Lin Zong's final wishes, he wants to film Terrifying Dragon 2. That Yi Bai's too lucky, huh? Either that or he can predict the future. How was he able to have such good timing? It was totally the right time at the right place with the right people. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Worldwide Entertainment, Chairman's Office, hahaha, not bad. I really didn't choose the wrong person. Mr. Ye is indeed a rare talent. Chu Hongguang had also received the news and was overjoyed. He immediately summoned Yi Wanwan over for a chat. When he suddenly placed Yi Bai in such an important position, many of his staff were unhappy with him. Now that Luo Chen had suddenly exploded in popularity, it proved his good judgment, so Chu Hongguang was obviously in a good mood. Yi Wanwan put on a humble face and acted like she didn't have the intention to take any credit. That's all because Chairman Chu didn't conform to standards and gave me a chance even when I didn't have much qualifications or experience. Otherwise, no matter how hard I tried, I'd still be a nobody. Chu Hongguang was pleased as he listened to Yi Wanwan and felt that this Yi Bai wasn't ignorant like that Zhou Wenbin. He felt even more satisfied with himself. Thus, he instantly took out a stack of files and a bunch of keycards and pushed them over. I'm very clear on rewarding the good and punishing the bad. You've done very well this time, so I'll get the finance department to give you a bonus this month and I'll hand this house over to you in advance. You don't have to rush the payment for the house, take your time. Yi Wanwan smiled and didn't stand on ceremony either as she accepted it all. Thank you, Chairman Chu. This old fox, Chu Hongguang, made himself look so generous, but he simply handed over the house a few days earlier than planned. He didn't lose out at all. After he spoke, he tried probing, Yi Bai, how confident are you in getting the role of Lin Luo Chen in Terrifying Dragon? Before, Terrifying Dragon exploded in popularity and made many newcomers famous. After that, the second season was supposed to be filmed, but due to some funding issues and other problems the production team had, they had to shelve the production midway. In the end, the popularity of martial arts films died down, so they didn't continue with the second season. That is, until the passing of Lin Zong made martial arts popular once again. Plus, Song Jin Lin wanted to fulfill Lin Zong's last wish, so this show would be a big production for sure. It was a rare opportunity. Within 10 hours of Song Jin Lin's announcement, many management companies already got down to work, but nobody was as swift as Yi Bai. Yi Wanwan replied plainly, it'll definitely be Luo Chen. Chu Hongguang chuckled, great. Then I'll be waiting for your good news. This Yi Bai seems a little dark. He didn't want anyone other than Luo Chen and managed Luo Chen's comeback at such a good time. Could it be that he's able to foresee a person's death too? Did he predict that Song Jin Lin would film Terrifying Dragon too? No matter how he managed to do it, it's not a matter I should be concerned about as long as he's able to pin down Zhou Wenbin. After she had left Worldwide's office, Yi Wanwan didn't go to Dazzling. Instead, she headed back to Jean Garden. After all, today was an extremely special day. When everyone was trying to figure out who the mastermind behind Luo Chen was, the legendary god with marvelous foresight, great manager Yi, was crouching in the house uneasily, staring at the laptop in full concentration and was ready to check the results of her college entrance exams. Teacher C, the moment has arrived. It's time to review the outcomes of your teaching. Yi Wanwan placed the laptop on her lap and rubbed her hands nervously. In contrast to Yi Wanwan's nervousness, Si Yihan was sitting on the sofa opposite, sipping his tea leisurely. It was time. After a few deep breaths, Yi Wanwan finally signed onto the website and entered her admission number. She hovered her finger on the enter button and paused for a second, then pushed it down hard. Language, 142 points, English, 148 points, Liberal Arts, 283 points, Math, 150 points. Damn! Even after she estimated her results, Yi Wanwan jumped in joy immediately after seeing these results. Especially when she saw her math results. With this overall score, she could get into Imperial Media. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Contacted, the man asked coldly with that rigid face of his with a total lack of emotion. Su Yi replied instantly, yes, Great Master Mei already confirmed at his end. He'll be using Ms. Wanwan's name to attend the birthday banquet and congratulate Yi Hongwei. Su Yi's tone seemed calm, but the truth was that in his heart, he was like a river with surging currents. It was agreed that Yi Wanwan wasn't allowed to leave Jean Garden at all, and it was agreed that Yi Wanwan wasn't allowed to contact her family. Never mind that the principles are being broken one by one, now he's even supporting her. What's he thinking? Could it be that since Gu Yuze will definitely be there at the banquet, he wants to show off a little in front of his rival? Mei Jingzhou is an internationally renowned great scholar in Chinese art and is extremely lofty other than master. Nobody in all of Imperial City could invite him. Inviting a national treasure to a banquet of this level? The place might not even be able to handle it. Forget it, as long as Yi Wanwan doesn't do anything funny when she sees Gu Yuze, it's fine even if the heavens can't handle it. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. A few days later. The college admission results were out and Yi Wanwan had successfully been admitted into Imperial Media. It was also the day of her grandfather's birthday banquet. Before she took off from work, Yi Wanwan sent a text to Si Yihan, "Baby, tonight's my grandpa's birthday banquet and I have to be there. Don't wait up for me for dinner, moi." She had been busy from morning till night getting ready for Luo Chen's casting for Terrifying Dragon 2, and didn't even have the time to find a birthday present. Yi Wanwan rushed back to the staff dorms, did her makeup again, changed her outfit then headed straight to the antique market. Her salary wasn't high, so she couldn't get an expensive gift and had to make her gift special with a limited budget. Large and small booths lined the antique street. It was quaint and felt as if she entered another era. Yi Wanwan's eyes swept the market. Her exquisite brows furrowed slightly as she surveyed dozens of stalls. A messy young man dressed in shabby denim overalls squatted by a store in the antique market and sized up Yi Wanwan. He looked straight at her without the slightest intention of hiding it. In order to save time, Yi Wanwan already put on the dress she was wearing to the banquet and attracted quite a bit of attention on her way over. However, there was something different about the way this man looked at her. It wasn't like the way other men looked at the opposite sex, but, the way he scanned her, it was as if he knew her. The man had a lazy expression and the corners of his lips curved upwards when he met Yi Wanwan's eyes. Yi Wanwan walked up to him and sized him up, then crossed her arms and asked, "Done looking?" The guy suddenly laughed. "I thought you looked quite familiar, like I've seen you somewhere before." Hearing what he said, Yi Wanwan chuckled. "This pickup line is a little old, isn't it? Babe, I haven't made any sales for a day already. It's hard to make a living, please help me out." The man showed off the products in his booth. After Yi Wanwan was sure she didn't know this person, she didn't waste any more time and turned away, ready to leave. Don't leave, the things I'm selling aren't just regular goods. Even if you don't want to get anything, just take a look." Seeing that Yi Wanwan was leaving, the youth tried desperately to grab her attention. Yi Wanwan turned her head and scanned the items in the young man's booth. With one glance, Yi Wanwan stopped in her tracks. The items he was selling were all different in shape. Unlike small trinkets and antique porcelain, they were more like various pieces of art made out of a kind of solid material. "What's this?" Yi Wanwan was intrigued by some delicate carvings and she pointed to a white box. Seeing that Yi Wanwan was interested in his goods, the laziness in the man's eyes dissipated and he was suddenly energized. "Girl, you have good taste, I knew you weren't just any old person. Sure enough, you know your stuff," the youth said proudly. He cleared his throat and said mysteriously, "This was a snow wolf I hunted when I ventured to the cold north by myself a few years ago. I used the bones from its legs to create this beautiful box. It's very domineering, suits you well. You can ward off evil if you keep it in your home." Yi Wanwan ventured to the cold north, hunted a snow wolf, used its legs to create a bone box. This marketing strategy's too crazy. Why didn't you just say it's made of a lion's skull you hunted from the cold north? Yi Wanwan resisted bursting into laughter and pointed to another aesthetically pleasing item and asked again, "What about this? You have really good taste. This was made out of the skull of an adult lion from the mountain ranges in South America. It was also hunted by me barehand," the man said, pleased with himself. Yi Wanwan liked it. Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Seeing the suspicion in Yi Wanwan's eyes, the man asked pressingly, "You think I'm bluffing?" Yi Wanwan shook her head and swung her purse in front of the man and laughed. "Years ago, after I hunted a brown bear weighing over thousands of pounds with my bare hands, I stripped its fur and made this purse with it." "Ah." The young man looked at the purse in Yi Wanwan's hand and was slightly stunned. "No way." The man rubbed his nose and was puzzled. "I've hunted many brown bears myself with my bare hands before. I didn't know there are brown bears weighing over 1,000 pounds. Yi Wanwan looked at how he was so puzzled and was so helpless. His focus was on the brown bear's weight and nothing else. "I've never seen any brown bear weighing a few thousand pounds before. Most of the brown bears I've hunted were at most around 1,300 pounds, the man replied seriously. "You're something else, huh?" Yi Wanwan gave a light laugh. "This person's quite interesting." "I'm alright. There's a technique to hunt brown bears, it's not very hard," the man said. Yi Wanwan shook her head. "What I meant was that you even brought a scale with you while you hunted brown bears." When he heard that, he appeared unhappy and said disgruntledly, "Girl, you're insulting me. I don't even need to weigh them, I know their weight with just one look." "Oh. How much do I weigh then?" Yi Wanwan asked casually. The man really scanned Yi Wanwan up and down before replying confidently, 165 pounds, give or take no more than 3 pounds. Yi Wanwan's face darkened in an instant. Is this man trying to make trouble on purpose? Seeing that there wasn't much time left, Yi Wanwan didn't want to keep talking nonsense with this man any further and immediately turned to leave. "Girl, aren't you buying anything?" the man shouted from behind her. When Yi Wanwan heard him, she considered it. Although she couldn't tell what his goods were made of, they were beautifully made and she quite liked them. Too bad she didn't have much money on her and had to quickly choose a birthday gift. "It's cheap." The man persisted and continued yelling. Yi Wanwan paused. Without turning around, her voice instinctively rang out, "How cheap?" "Man, 100,000 for one." Yi Wanwan, goodbye. "Man, 10,000. Yi Wanwan didn't turn her head. 1,000, I can't go any lower. He was desperate. 100. Yi Wanwan shouted back. Damn, is this even haggling? 100,000 to 100. This is robbery. The man was totally stunned. But in the next second, the man quickly shouted as if worried that she'd leave, Fine, 100 then, it's enough for me to have dumplings, so hard making business from you girls. If not for me not making a single sale in 3 months, I wouldn't even accept anything less than 100,000. Yi Wanwan made that offer nonchalantly and didn't expect him to actually agree to it. Surprised, she turned around swiftly and pointed at the sculpture that had caught her eye just now. I want this, please wrap it up. Anyway, she wasn't losing out and couldn't be cheated with $100. Sure. He took out a gorgeous gift box and placed the item in it. Girl, what's your name? He asked after he received the money. When asking for someone else's name, shouldn't you tell the person your name first? Yi Wanwan laughed. I'm nameless Nye. The man was visibly happy when he told her his name. Oh, I'm famous Yi Wanwan replied plainly. This guy, not only is he selling fake goods, even his name's fake, huh? Who would be called nameless? What kind of weird name is this? Were you adopted? Nameless Nye looked at Yi Wanwan, bewildered. I guess you were adopted too, huh? The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips curled upwards and she didn't keep talking nonsense with Nameless Nye. She turned and disappeared into the street. After Yi Wanwan left, Nameless Nye straightened his slightly crumpled denim overalls and sat next to his booth. He returned to his lazy self as he laid in a comfortable position. Famous Yi, interesting. The man smiled, revealing a languid and evil expression. Mommy. I want this. At that moment, a mother with a child around the age of 7 or 8 appeared in front of his booth and Nameless Nye quickly stood up, little bro, you have good taste. This was a polar bear I hunted in the far north years ago with my bare hands, then I used its fur. Don't leave. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. At the old residence of the Yi family. Outside the Grand Manor, it was almost completely blocked off by security personnel, forming a restricted area. Many reporters waited a few hundred yards away, each of them stretching their heads out, trying to peek into the old residence of the Yi family. One after another, numerous luxurious sports cars slowly made their way to the old residence. The stream of cars dazzled all the reporters. Big stars dressed in gorgeous outfits came out of the cars, walking out gracefully with poise towards the old house. The reporters stood outside the restricted area and gasped in shock continuously. They kept clicking their cameras and fought to get the best shots of famous figures. Cheng Man Ni, currently one of the top 10 A-list celebrities in the country. One of the reporters raised his camera up high and glanced at the wonderful figure that just passed. That's the big brother and sister from Emperor Sky. They're actually here. Each of the celebrities that arrived was extremely popular, making the crowd wish they could grow another pair of hands so they could take more pictures. Today's old Ye's birthday and half of the entertainment industries arrived. This attendance surpasses even the Golden Orchid Awards ceremony. Doesn't the Yi family already control half the entire entertainment industry? Too bad the place is entirely cordoned off. If only we could get in and take a few pictures, that would really be. With that said, the reporters started to complain and sigh, shaking their heads. It was already considered an honor to be able to stand outside and soak in the atmosphere of old Ye's birthday celebration. With the skills of the Yi family's security guards, not to mention getting inside, but even if they got near the main gate, they'd probably be thrown out by the guards instantly. This Yi family's really powerful, they actually have so many big stars attending the banquet. I've never seen something so grand before. You call this grand? Although the Yi family's the big boss of the entertainment industry, that scandal many years ago caused the Yi family to suffer a great loss and they haven't been able to return to their glory. If that incident hadn't happened, the Yi family would definitely be twice as rich. Scandal? What scandal? Hearing that, a few of the new reporters became interested and looked eagerly at the reporter who said it. The newcomers became very interested in the topic and they started probing. A scandal that could hurt the Yi family must have been a big one. Senior, please tell us and let us gain some knowledge. A slightly older reporter dressed in a reporter's attire had his pointy finger pressed against the gate. He lifted his gaze and in response to all the questions coming at him, he said secretively, this was the Yes family scandal. Although the Yi family wanted to hide this incident at all costs, because of the magnitude of it, the truth was leaked and many people dug out the truth together. In this day and age, it's no longer considered a secret anymore. A big corporation like the Yi Group naturally isn't as calm as they look on the surface. Many years ago, the scandal of the Yi family caused a ruckus throughout the entire industry, almost uprooting the Yi family altogether. The new reporters were more and more intrigued as they listened and shuffled closer to him with their ears pricked, afraid they'd miss out on important information. Everyone knows the president of the Yi Group now is old Ye's son, Yi Shaoan, but a few years ago, Yi Shaoan was just a small assistant in the company. The slightly older reporter said mysteriously. What do you mean? A few of the reporters were confused. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Everyone knew who Yi Shaoan from the Yi Group was. He was the boss of Yi Group. How could he be an assistant years ago? The senior reporter looked at the crowd's curious gaze and said softly, that Yi Shaoan is the second son of old Yi. Old Yi has an older son called Yi Shaoting. Before the scandal, Yi Shaoting was supposed to take over the Yi Group and Yi Shaoan was just his assistant. There's something like this. The newcomer reporters weren't very familiar with the members of the Yi family, they only knew what was on the surface. Could it be fake? It was said that the boss of Yi Group at the time, Yi Xiaoting, was involved in some serious gang activities and laundered the company's money away, embezzling a large number of public funds. These old stories were like bombs that blew these new reporters' minds. Is this Yi Xiaoting insane? He actually did something so atrocious. A month after that happened, Yi Xiaoan sacrificed his ties of blood to righteousness and exposed Yi Xiaoting. Under all the irrefutable evidence, Yi Xiaoting admitted to his crimes. Old Yi raged, and after that, together with the senior management of Yi Group, they threw Yi Xiaoting out of the company, banishing this tumor. Ever since, the group's been in the hands of old Ye's second son, Yi Xiaoan. The senior reporter sighed as he recalled the past. Then, how's Yi Xiaoting now? A reporter asked out of curiosity. Him. After doing those deeds, nobody wanted a piece of trash like that. It's been said that he's working at some small company now. His son and daughter are useless as well. His son, Yi Mufan, is working for Yi Xiaoting's ex-driver, while his daughter's even more outrageous. Not only is she exceptionally ugly, she's an incompetent and ignorant girl, always stirring up trouble. The senior reporter revealed everything he knew. As for Yi Xiaoting's family, these reporters obviously didn't have a good impression of them. I really didn't expect that the Yi family was tied up with a bunch of scum like them. Yi Xiaoting's entire family are hopeless fools, but Yi Xiaoan's daughter, Yi Yi, has a really excellent character and good looks. She's young, yet she's even more capable than her father, Yi Xiaoan. Today, she's the director of the talent recruitment department in one of the subsidiaries under Yi Group, Emperor Sky, and has groomed countless big stars. She's about the same age as Yi Xiaoting's daughter, but they're on opposite poles. If only Yi Xiaoting had a daughter like Yi Yi, he probably wouldn't be in such a pathetic state, another reporter said. As the saying goes, dragons beget dragons, phoenixes beget phoenixes, and the son of a mouse can dig holes. In other words, like father like son. Yi Xiaoting turned on his family and has a bad moral compass. With a father like him, how could his children be any better? A crooked stick forms a crooked shadow, right? The moment he said that, before anyone could respond, a white Bentley went past the crowd and slowly entered the Yi family's old residence. From the side window, you could see a girl with a delicate face as if sculpted from fine jade. In a split second, all the reporters' attention was attracted by that girl's breathtaking face. Each one of them opened their eyes wide, afraid they'd miss out on seeing this influential person. Very soon, the Bentley stopped by the Yi family's old residence. The driver got out of his seat and opened the door. The girl took a step out and slowly got out from the left side of the car. She was dressed in a white gown that seemed to be custom-made for her. Her long black hair was in a loose bun and was secured with a jade pin. She was magnificent and graceful, yet she was also delicate, causing all of them to palpitate with excitement. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. That girl had just appeared, yet she immediately stunned all the reporters and attracted gasps of surprise. Who's that star? Why haven't I seen her before? That's Yi Yi, the beloved granddaughter of the two elders of the Yi family chairman Yi Xiaoan's only daughter, a reporter in the know replied. This statement drew the comments of many of the new reporters. Yi Yi's too beautiful, huh? With that face of hers, she could even compete with the stunning artistes in the entertainment industry, not to mention that disposition of hers artistes in the industry can't even fight with her. Yi Yi rarely appeared in public, so each time these reporters saw Yi Yi, they were blown away by her good looks. This disposition is indeed innate. If Yi Yi made a debut, just this face and disposition alone would be enough for her to explode in popularity. With Yi Yi's status, why would she need to enter the showbiz? She's not some flower vase, she's capable and smart, all right. In the future, the entire Yi group will belong to her. A group of reporters was talking amongst themselves when a young man walked out of the car right after Yi Yi. The man had a tall build and was incomparably dashing. He was dressed in a custom-made Brioni suit, every detail was almost perfect. With a faint smile on his face, he walked directly over to Yi Yi's side. Damn, who's that I see? Isn't he, the successor of Imperial City's Gu Group, Gu Yuze? He's so handsome. A few of the female reporters started screaming when they saw Gu Yuze. They were even more excited seeing him than Little Fresh Meat or other big stars. The little fresh meats in the showbiz were completely overshadowed when compared to this man, or rather, they weren't even in the same category. It was as if they were from different dimensions altogether. The better-looking fresh meats in the showbiz were just limited to their good looks and had merely undergone training on how to carry themselves. They weren't naturals. On the other hand, Gu Yuze was like Yi Yi. His disposition and vibe were very fitting. His persona came about organically and couldn't be compared to those idols who had undergone training. At this moment, some of the young artistes from Emperor Sky standing next to Gu Yuze and Yi Yi lost their attractiveness instantly. There was an even greater contrast when they stood side by side. Under all the stunned looks, Yi Yi flipped her hair gently over her shoulders. Her slender arms naturally hooked onto Gu Yuze's arm as Gu Yuze lowered his head and revealed a tender smile to Yi Yi. He placed his hand lightly over the small hand on his arm. The perfect couple then slowly made their way towards the Yi family's old residence. Seeing that Yi Yi and Gu Yuze were so close, a reporter mumbled doubtfully, Gu Yuze and Yi Yi seem quite close, huh? Don't you know? The senior reporter said, Gu Yuze and Yi Yi are dating. Gu Yuze is not only the successor of the Gu Group but as a prospective son-in-law, he would also become the CEO of Emperor Sky Entertainment, one of the companies under Yi Group. Gu Yuze and Yi Yi are dating? But I heard that Gu Yuze has a fiancé. Fiancé? He does. Gu Yuze has a fiancé and she's also old Ye's granddaughter. She's called Yi Wanwan, Yi Shaoting's daughter. When Yi Wanwan's name was mentioned, a few of the reporters revealed a meaningful expression. Yi Shaoting's daughter. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.